So today I have a really interesting interview to share with you all from Carole, a seventh grade mathematics teacher who has this really fascinating assignment where she took her students' understandings of geometry and showed them how to apply it to art. And what emerged from that was a really interesting and unique multimodal assignment that we're going to be discussing with you today. Hi everyone, I'm Lee Hall from Literacy Teachers, and I'm all about giving you the tools you need to inspire, motivate, and change how your students read and write for academic success. If you're new here, make sure you hit the subscribe button so that you get new notifications as I put out new videos every week. All right, so today I have with me Carole, and Carole is a seventh grade mathematics teacher, and she's going to be sharing with us an assignment that she's done with her students that uses multimodal approaches to developing their literacy abilities. And it's a really unique approach that combines art with mathematics. So Carole, hello, thank you for being with us today. We really appreciate it.
Hi, thank you.
So I'm going to put up here the directions that you have. And there we go. And if you could just sort of maybe talk a little bit about what inspired you to do these, to do this assignment, and sort of walk us through it a little bit.
So in seventh grade, one of our biggest standards is geometry. And so we wanted to come up with a way for the students to be able to understand, but to be able to apply it in a way that helped them make sense. So we spend about 2 weeks on this geometry unit, and we work on integrating equations with it and the different types of angles and how to integrate these shapes. So at the very end, we decided instead of just giving a standard test like we typically do, that we would create this drawing project that integrated all of our terms that we had been learning throughout the unit. So we asked the students to integrate these 21 different shapes, and they're able to create any type of image that they would like. We ask them to be as creative as they feel, but we're not grading them on their art. Since it's not an art class, we're grading them on their math.
So they already know these 21 terms here. They've already been introduced to them. This is really an assessment to see how well they know them, correct?
Yes.
And do they do all 21 in one piece of artwork?
Yes, there's some students that will choose to do just an 8x10 piece of paper, and then I've had some students decide to blow it up and they've integrated it into 4 8x10. So they can take it as little or as large as they want, but they have to integrate all 21 terms.
Okay, so all 21, even if they do 4 8x10s, it would be the same kind of scene. It would be one picture, not 4 individual pictures, right?
Right.
All right, so we have some examples here. I'm going to put these up and we can take a look at what your students did. Let's go back up to the top here. So do you want to talk a little bit about these?
Sure. So this first one is a car. So it was inspired by a young male in my classroom. And he decided that since he was really big into cars, he would integrate it. So he did his a little differently as he created all of them, but then he labeled them with the words. So some of our students choose not to put all of the words on there simply because it takes up a lot of space, and so we allow them to put the numbers on there as long as they match the correct term. Mm-hmm. So he chose to do a car, and he went really into depth with it. So this is one of our really in-depth projects that it was really amazing to see some of the artistic abilities that the kids have. So they don't have to label it, correct? Like I see he's got like right angle and acute and those sorts of things in there. So then if they don't label it, then you as the instructor have to go through and find all 21. Is it like a little scavenger hunt, or how much time does that take for you? Well, they have to label it in some way. So if they label it corresponding to the numbers on the rubric, then they can use the numbers. So this one hadn't quite finished, but if you look inside the lion space, she has an upper 14 up there.
Okay.
She did still have some of the things labeled. She had just spent a lot more time on the shading piece. But she did go through and she added some of them in because there's a 5 in the left-hand side, and she had some of those integrated. So some of them try to integrate them in a way that doesn't take away from their art, because they were focused more on the arts than they were the language of the math.
Right. Okay. So it's labeled in some way, either explicitly or with a they number it that matches on to the list that you gave them. So it's not a scavenger hunt for you.
No.
Not quite, right?
Right.
Okay. That makes me feel better. I was a little worried about how much time that could take if you had to go through and pull them all out.
Yeah.
So what I think is really nice, I wanted to say about the car is, I mean, this is a really nice opportunity where, like you said, this was a young man who's interested in cars. And so he doesn't just have to do some kind of, match parallel lines with the definition of parallel lines, or use it in a sentence, or somehow recreate this definition. He can actually draw on something that he's really interested in. And I'm sure that he had to really be thoughtful about this and understand. He probably looks at cars differently now, like he can see these things in cars. So it's a really nice example of how it draws on students' funds of knowledge and can really incorporate their interests. So I don't know if he was already excited about geometry, but if he wasn't, this, helps make that connection for him.
Right. I would say at the very beginning, this was one of my students that was not interested in geometry. So it was exciting to see the take that he took on it.
It makes it very, it shows geometry in everyday life. It makes it very relevant and practical for them. So let's go down here. Let's take a look at the leprechaun.
This one was one of my favorites. So his favorite cereal is Lucky Charms. So he decided to take his favorite cereal and turn it into all of these different shapes. So all of the shapes at the bottom, or all of the, charms or cereal at the bottom, turned into his geometry project. So you see a lot of different numbers out there. And what was neat about it is he bolded those. So he kind of set them out a little bit different. So 17 was bolded compared to all of the other charms. But it was just nice to see that he included something that he really enjoyed other than a school-related item.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like this is really giving them the opportunity, again, to use something that they're really into, but then to think about the shape or how geometry is represented in the things that they're interested in everyday life. Is there one more? I think there's one more, right? Yeah.
So this one, she had a dog named Max, and she loved taking her dog to the dog park. And so she just recreated Max's atmosphere in the dog park. We usually do it at the end of third quarter, so spring is hitting. So I think she was feeling a little bit of spring fever as well. So she was really excited for it.
So it's really exciting, not just because they get to bring in their interests, which it looks like all of them have really explicitly done. But one of the things that I like about this is it has this really unique opportunity for transfer. So we always want, I had this great story a long time ago when I taught middle school, where the science teacher came over to me, and I taught language arts, and she came over to me and she said, I thought you taught these kids how to write. I thought you said that they could write a paper in my science class. And she gave me these papers that looked horrible, that looked nothing. It looked like I taught them nothing all year long. And I basically just had to sit up in the front of the room with them and say, but you guys know how to do this. You know how to write incomplete sentences. These were sixth graders. You know how to write a paragraph. You know how to use punctuation. It's like they just threw out every single writing rule. And so you want it to transfer. You want them to know what we learn in geometry applies outside of geometry. It can apply in everyday life. It can apply in other disciplines. And I think what this does, because it combines geometry with art, and then you let them bring in their own personal interests to make these pictures, that this sets them up nicely for transfer to happen. Have you noticed anything like that, or what are your thoughts on that?
I have. Last year was my first year actually as a 7th grade math teacher. So this was the first time I got to do that project. But the 8th graders this year, it's something that they truly remember, and it's something that they can bring back. And it's a project that they really had that experience, so they were able to remember it.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Carole, for taking the time to show us the multimodal project that you're doing, how you're connecting geometry to art, and some of your students' examples. I am convinced that they're going to look at the world differently because of this assignment.
Well, thank you.
All right, so thank you very much. And if you have questions for Carole, please leave them. You can leave them in the comments. Carole, if it's okay with you, we can link to the directions in the show notes, put it in a Google Doc, and we'll have a link. I can put it in a Google Doc for you and link to it. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. Okay, so thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe so you can catch all of my videos. And while you're at it, go down to the comments section and share with us any questions that you might have for Carole about this assignment that she does with her students, any questions that you have about multimodal text, how you use multimodal text. We would love to hear from you, have a conversation about that, and I hope you move forward in your journey to become the teacher that you want to be.